Was Emily Hartley a feminist?
You know, it's so funny because I am a living example of what the feminists aspire to, aspire to, the doors we broke down and so on and so forth. So, by helping to shape this character, I put out, which I try always to do, a very constructive, good image. As it never occurred to me that I was a talented actress, I didn't realize that my own existence was. I gave a speech yesterday, um, and I was talking about the fact that I always thought that I would, be married to like a Lee Iacocca, captain of industry, not Lee, but please, but, and that I was only acting until that moment when I was going to be the great little helpmate and the thing and the camel's hair coat and all that. Well, because I'm pre-feminist times, there was no conscious movement that said you can aspire to something different, and that actually seems like something great to aspire to. That I was a living example of things to aspire to. Is that a sentence? And that I was playing that. I was shaping a character by my intelligence, my femininity, but strength, and my feelings about how to play a marriage. You know, um, that could have been a very shrill relationship. I could have shaped it in another way, where they would have written to something else. But it was important to me that I not be in a series where the wife was the idiot child saved all the time, a la Lucy and Desi, although wonderful, that in that time with those brilliant people. By the same token, I did not want to be the bitch shrew wife who who moved this little wussy guy around. So I think what we did was fabulous. I mean, really fabulous. And uh, a lot of people have said that. I mean, when people come up to me and say, you're my hero, I am really grateful, and I know that consciously I set about to do that. And I was having a conversation the other night with a guy, friends of our, actor Tom, my husband, and a guy who's directed. And I got a pilot a couple of weeks ago. It's very interesting material, but it's very dark. It's about really the underside of what Hollywood is, young Hollywood is, and it's brutal, it's mean, it's dangerous. I mean, it's what television is doing now in the Deadwoods and the Oz and the this and the that. And I thought, do I want to do this? Do I want? It's what television. It's very well written. And it's an interesting character. What is my obligation as a human being now to what I put out there with my work? And this is a real dilemma because thank God I don't need to work. I don't financially need to work, and I don't need to work because otherwise I'm nothing and nobody. And uh, uh, what is my responsibility as a caring human being to what I put out there? Now, what's happened is the lowest common denominator has become the common denominator. So we are inured to certain things, and we're losing manners, we're losing style, we're losing kindness. Uh, and a lot of it is happening as a result of the television we're doing and the characters we're willing to play that reflect a piece of human nature, but it's over and over because it gets laughs. or because it's dramatically interesting. What's the actor's obligation to make the world a better place? I mean, you do it in your own way as a human being and what you choose to do. But I'm having a terrible time right now. I mean, I've got one project where it's the mother of the two doctor sons, Jewish, absolutely cliche, but funny. And the other one is this, what can be a very interesting role in a piece that has some truth in it, but it's going to make it more and more and more and more accessible because we're used to it, and we're no longer saying this is not allowed, this is not right, this is not a world that I want my children in. I don't know. It's a tough thing. It's a tough thing. You can't march for material, you know. I don't know. You can march for clean air, you can march for this, you can send checks for that. But I may never act again because I had a problem on Single Guy, because when I came into it as Jonathan's mother, it was a fabulous character. She was horrible, funny, horrible, but so you hadn't seen her before. Selfish and, you know, arch and politically incorrect. I mean, and it was Brad and I created this broad where, I mean, first of all, in every scene I had a different fur on. I had killed another animal for something for my own beautiful, you know. And it was a negative example, but it was great. It was great because you look at it and you say, does she not know? You know. And then when he left and other writers came in, they started writing the cliche Jewish mother. Shrew, cutting his ball. And I said, excuse me, because I was supposed to do 6 shows. I will not do this. This is not what I came in to play. This is not interesting. This is not new. And they said, well, you have to. This was whatever the executive was of the company. And I said, let me explain something to you. I don't care if this is my last job. I don't have to do anything that I can't live with. And I am a Jew. I am not putting out an anti-Semitic picture like that, you know, which now you're redefining it to satisfy your therapy. You know, not interesting, not what I came here to do. Now, if you want to force the issue, let's call a press conference. And I'll state what I have to say. And I meant it. I meant it. I meant I will not be a party to this cliche. And so they rewrote it, and it was fine. You know, it wasn't bad. It wasn't the original marvelous. And then my husband, Tommy, who made all my deals, called the next day, and he said, thank you very much for, you know, we appreciate that you addressed her concerns, and she's not going to do the next 3. And that's how we resolved it. But, you know, you can do that and do that and do that and do that. You have to make sure it's the right fight, too. That it's not about authority and, you know, personal issues you have with this and that where you can find fault with everything. But I don't like living in a world without manners. I don't like living in a world that isn't kind. I don't, you know, I'm a realist. I mean, I've had life kick me in the ass many times over. And I've been guilty of the dark side of stuff. But I do think that we have to do things that lift and enlighten and have some kind of balance. That's harder because it's not as dramatic. It's not as shocking. The vulgar jokes are easy laughs. I don't know what to do about it. I tell you, I honestly don't know what to do about it. This is a conversation a lot of adults have who already have built careers and now have a responsibility to the universe. I don't have an answer. I guess you'll find out the answer the next piece of material I choose, or I won't work again.
But I'm sure it'll be interesting, whatever your choices are. Because that's what you bring to the roles, I think. When you were doing Newhart, or the Bob Newhart show, were you thinking at the time, you said consciously in terms of how you were approaching what you were doing, but were you thinking about it being groundbreaking in terms of
No.
how this was a married couple that wasn't like other married couples on television?
I wasn't thinking of it being groundbreaking, but I knew it was right. So did Bob. In fact, as you know, I didn't have children, so we didn't have to deal with the pregnancy thing, unfortunately for me, but great for the show. And they wrote a show in I think it was the 5th year, in which, and Bob talks about this frequently, Emily is pregnant. I said, Bob, I'm 100 pounds. I don't want to walk around with a belly. And I called him, and I got the script. I said, I thought we didn't want to do this. So he called the guys the next day, and they said, how'd you like the script? He said, terrific. Who's going to play Bob? So it became a fantasy show. And I think we were right. And Bob was absolutely right to hold on to that.
Let me mention some castmates' names and give me your reactions, okay? Bill Daly, who played Howard.
God. It wasn't until I started to see Newhart in reruns that I realized how brilliant Billy is. I mean, he turned stupidity into something so brilliant. And it was then that I realized, you don't realize things in the moment, that he really was our child, that we did have a child. We handled it in a different way, in a more unique way. And as far as a human being, so delicious, so dippy, so cute, but at the core, such a good man.
Marsha Wallace is
I love
Carol.
Marsha. I mean, she is extraordinary. I mean, Marsha came the farthest of all of us in terms of growth. I mean, from bulimia to 250 pounds, having a nervous breakdown on our Christmas show, committing herself to the psychiatric ward, to married, single mother, losing her husband, finding a man at 40 that was the love of her life, who married her, was gorgeous and had everything. And after they adopt a baby, he dies, and she's left to raise this child, And no serious work after that because people, it's so insane. She's so identified with Newhart. Well, so am I. I've done 5 since then. So is Bob. He's done 4 since then. It's ridiculous. But she got stuck. And she is such an amazing woman. She's so bright. She writes so well. I mean, her Christmas letter you could drop dead from, And she goes out and then she lectures as a cancer survivor, and she's just fabulous. And her son is great, and we're really friends. I really care about her.
Peter Bonners, who played Jerry.
I love Peter. Petey. I mean, Peter used to fart. Hello, Peter. I'm sure you are so happy this is in the archive. And then Peter started to really buy good clothes. And I said, Peter, you cannot fart in Ted Lapidus pants, And Marcia had a dog that used to sit under the table. I said, do you really think that we all think it's the dog? We know it's you, Peter, And he wasn't social. Peter wanted to go in his room and read, Baudelaire. I don't know. And Marcia and I would just drag him out and, make him be part of everything that was going on. And Peter became a director on our show, and he's a very, very good director. If you watch the shows that Peter did, there's a certain kind of music. There's a certain kind of flow to them that shows his real skill. And I see Peter, Tommy and I saw Peter and Roz, and Tom and I see Peter and Roz. I like him. He's an intelligent man who did not expect to like me. I seem to be the antithesis of everything that he cared about, the intellectual. I said, it's very interesting. When you talk about any intellectual, he didn't bother to look at me. Hello, I have a brain. But when we talk about Frank Sinatra, he's right there. But I'm crazy about Peter and Roz. We grew up together, all of us.
Did ad libs ever make it into the show?
Rarely. We were very respectful of the material.
I'm sure this question's been asked many times, but for our archive, with all the episodes that you did, what were your favorites? What were ones you don't even want to remember? Anything stand out?
You know, I don't remember any in particular, nor do I have any that. I mean, I was always the mommy of the show. You may not do this. You must do this. I made the lunch dates, and we had a guest on. I think his name is Dick Shaw. He was married to Valerie Harper at the time, and he never wanted to. The lines came later because he was in a creative flow and everything. And it used to drive us crazy. And everybody was breaking up. And I said, listen to me. This is our house. And we must be good to the people who, and we must be, and discipline and everything. We're no breaking up. And that's it. And that's the way it's going to be. I say to Peter Peter, Marcia, Billy, and Bob, okay, action. What happens? Action. He opens his mouth and I go, and I lose it into Bob's armpit. I mean, it's right there on camera. Or Bob, that son of a bitch, knew how to break me up. And we have 3 words, which are just our 3 words, but he would do them so that this part that the audience was seeing was fine, but he was doing the ha 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 that gets me insane on this side. He can still do it across a crowded room and I fall down. That's what I remember. I remember he does the most adorable drunk. I look at him and there is one show where we're on a cruise and he gets drunk, trying to fix up the other couple. And he was so goddamn cute. I go, Bobby. I mean, nobody ever called him Bobby. I never called him Bobby. And you can hear Rosemary Dorsey, our script supervisor, go, oh, But, I mean, it was mostly the delight over how delicious what he was doing was,
There was one episode that was particularly hilarious where it turns out that we find out that Emily's IQ is
that's a great show.
Is better, higher than the Bob's. What do you remember about that?
I just thought it was such a wonderful concept. And the little boy, my date at the thing, I just remember, just wonderful concept. I don't remember anything about it. I think I wore a blue and white check dress. That's what I remember. You're talking to a woman who's basically shallow. So.
What about the final episode when the show wrapped? Bob basically decided to end the show. Is that correct?
Well, Bob decided the year before,
Mm-hmm.
after 5 years, and he said, I can't drive over the hill one more time. I said, don't say that. They'll buy you a house in the valley. I mean, that's so stupid. And they said, well, you want to quit, Bob? Fine, and we understand that. So can we have $16 million? And he said, what? I don't have that on me, because that's what we'll be making, right? So he went another year. As it turned out, Bob, and we could have gone on for 3 more years, maybe. But Bob was right. It was the right time. Not that we were starting to repeat ourselves or anything. It was the right time for all of us to step out of there. And, Bob's not emotional. He doesn't want to, he doesn't want to be obliged to be connected. Some of it's the Catholic thing, And so the last show, Bob, they photographed the curtain call. Bob came out, and then he was supposed to, introduce me, and there's Bob. And before he couldn't say my name, and this sob came up out of Bob. Well, I ran out, and hugged him. And he didn't pull away like he always does, And then one by one, we just came out. But to see that emotion in Bob, I think it shocked him. I had said to Bob, I don't know if I've ever told this story publicly. You don't know what you have here, because you've been a stand-up, and you were up there alone. You haven't been in the trenches like we all have. This is very rare, Bob. You're not just coming in, hitting your mark, and saying your lines. And someday you're going to get out there, and you're going to know how special this was. And after he had done the new Newhart show, he called us all and went to the house. We had dinner. And he said, A very wise woman once told me, because he wouldn't acknowledge it was me, that I one day would find out how special, and he said, I'm here to tell you that I didn't hold it in high enough regard and how very special it was, and I need to acknowledge that for all of you. And it was very sweet, very touching, and it was an interesting lesson, you know. I think that, you know, Bob and I knew each other a long time, and I don't think that Bob thought that he was going to particularly like me, you know. Probably thought I'd be a bitch. A lot of people. I like to keep that out there because then people are intimidated. I don't have to do anything, you know. And I'm quite the reverse. I'm really, you know, very loving on a set, very protective. If I ask for something, it's usually to make the show better. Not, you know, it's not about trailers or stuff like that. And after all this time, finally, we were having dinner one at Ma Maison. This is when he was doing the second show. Did two things that night. He said, well, you know, she doesn't have your timing, but who does? A compliment? Shit. Oh, my God. And then we were out in the parking lot, and he said, well, you know I love you. And I went, oh, and I fell all over him sobbing and thinking. And he said, oh, get away. Oh, God, that's why I never tell you anything, you know. It's just awful for him. And, you know, I lick his face. I do all kinds of things that he hates, you know. Can't keep my hands off him. He's like my baby. But it was a lesson in every sense. It was a lesson in him working in a community of actors, which he had rarely done before, and working with talented people, talented in their own right, which is hard for guys in one to understand, who protected him. Not that he needs much protecting because he's so talented, but in other ways, even by insisting that he be the best he could be. You know, I still do it with him. You're not going out there like that. Put that other jacket on. You know, come on, you're gorgeous. I mean, and the shock for him to find out that that I was to be respected. You know, one of the things that's happened to me largely in my life is I'm very good company. I'm fun, you know, so, and I socialize with a lot of important people in the business just because I've been around them so long, you know, from the younger ones who are the kids of the people I knew to the thing. And they have forgotten that I'm an actress. And all of a sudden, they'll be talking about something, and a casting director may say, Suzanne Pleshette, and they go, oh, shit, Susie. You know, because they just had dinner with me the night before. It never occurred to them. They forgot. So, you know, I'm not going to make a choice between am I going to have a great life and have wonderful dinners with all these great people. If they forget I can act, so what? You know, and every once in a while I'll say, schmuck. You know, I could do that. You know, if it's something I want to do. I'm not shy about that. But it's a dilemma.
Yeah. Where would Emily be today?
Still married to Bob. She probably would have designed some educational tool. I don't think she'd be teaching school. Jeez, I don't know, how old would Emily be now? Shit. And they'd be traveling. They'd be traveling. But they'd be married. And they would not have adopted children.
It's a rare thing when a moment in television comes along, one of those moments that everybody remembers, and you were front and center in one of those moments, and that was the final episode of the second Newhart series. Tell us about that. How did you first hear about the idea?
I can tell you exactly. I can tell you to the second.
And how did you keep it a
That same
secret?
night in the parking lot, Ginny said at dinner at Ma Maison, where of course they were late because Ginny makes him stop and change a tire for somebody in the street, or pick up a dog, or go to the loony bin. You know, there's always something that Ginny finds for Bob to do, and they're late because they've saved the world, right?
Ginny, this is Newhart's wife, right?
That's great. So at dinner, Ginny said, because they were doing that show, and it was maybe in the second year, you know, it would be great at the end of whenever the end comes, if it was all a dream, and I said, oh Christ, they'd never let us. It would be like negating all the years of that show, however many years they have. And a couple of times later, we said, well, it was great if, when it was the last year, the producers called me one day and they said, we're calling about, I said, I know what you're calling about. They said, you do? I said, it's all a dream. So I said, are they really going to let you do this? They said, yeah. So we had a code name when I would call them back so it wouldn't be me. They wrote a fake ending where Bob is up to heaven and is with God. And the cast was trying to guess who was going to play God. Oh, is it going to be Rickles or, you know. They built the set in secret. The only one who knew was Dick Martin, because he was directing. And of course, people who built the set were figuring something out. They did not tell the cast until 20 minutes before we did it. And they hid me in a trailer for 6 hours with no phone. You don't do that to a woman like me. No shopping, no phone. What, are you kidding? And we were so nervous because we couldn't rehearse. And I said, Jesus, Bob, if that light fixture isn't where it was in, 19, whatever the last year was, 70, whatever, 8, I said, I'm going to be wham banging on the wall till the lights come down. And just before we were in bed, they put a coat over it. They came in, and Bob and I were holding hands, and he said, wait for the laugh. And I said, what if there isn't one? And with that, I was under the covers, and the screen went back, and the audience saw the sheets. And they went, and then he said whatever he says, and I go, well, who's going to have a voice in this octave except me? And they went, and then, of course, when I sat up, it was screaming, 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 screaming. And I knew it was a piece of television history. He knew it, we knew it. We were nervous, but, we knew. And I was at the rap party afterwards, and it was so odd. I didn't belong there. It wasn't my show. I never wanted to make it tough for Mary Fran either, People used to say, I'll go there and go read that and do this and do that. And I said, no. I wouldn't want anybody to do that to me. I'm not going to do it to her. And so I left. I snuck, they were all doing cutting cake and thing, and I walked out because it wasn't my house,
Was that the one and only take?
Oh, yeah. Couldn't be any other way.
Okay, that's great. Just briefly, a couple of moments in productions I'd like you just to speak to. Well, actually, we're getting near the end of the tape, so let's change, and we'll have a little bit more to do.